All right, guys, how's it going? Better late than never. It's about 9 o'clock here. Oh, I had to think to myself, do I do a video now or do I do it tomorrow morning? I thought, nah, I've been waiting all day. So here I am. Normally on a Friday night, I got my chick for a bite to eat, but I cancelled that as well. So instead, I have got chicken and some spuds. Look, they look all right, don't they? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish that off and I'll be with you in a second. Ta-da! You didn't even notice that, did you? Ah, dear me. I was starving. How are you doing, guys? You all right? So, I've got this article to go over with you, which was a James Pearce article, Bad News Pearce, as some people call him. Just let me have one drink. I'm so sorry. I have literally just got in the house with that food and with that drink. Like I say, I'm supposed to go out on a Friday night with my chick, but I thought I should do this video for you. Right, let's start. Why the Liverpool hierarchy have no plans to sack manager Arne Slot? Very interesting for me to see that headline from James Pearce, because a few days ago, if you remember, on January the 25th, he did this major surgery piece, and it was very different tone for James Pearce. Very different. I wasn't, the only person that noticed that. Quite a few people noticed it. Before I even read it, people were sending me messages saying, have you seen James Pearce's articles? He doesn't usually do that. So really, you'd have to go back a couple of videos. Any with James Pearce in the title. There was there was an article he did on the 25th. He appeared on a podcast on the 27th, but he changed then on the 27th from the 25th because he was with David Ornstein. And Dave, that analyses these with me, seemed to suggest that when Ornstein was in the room, James Pearce adapted a different, I don't want to say attitude, but, 25th, he was like, 27th, he was like, yes, David, yes. And then this article came out yesterday, I believe, on the 29th, all right? So James Pearce has been busy this week. And what we're going to do is this article, I assume, is behind a paywall at The Athletic. I pay for The Athletic because I like to read David Ornstein's articles. I pay for The Times because I like to read Paul Joyce's articles, and it stops there. Now, you can open these up. Any articles on The Athletic, the Daily Mail, won't bother, to be honest. But, The Athletic, the Times, you can open them up. There are ways of doing that, but I can't tell you. I get into trouble for doing that. But, I know that my peoples in the comments might help you if you were to ask. I'm not going to read the entire article out to you. So I'm going to take it that you've heard about it or you've read it. Do you know what you can do? If you're on X, you can use Grok, which is the resident AI, if you like, and say, hey, Grok, summarize that article for me. Or even say, give me the article, so, and it'll do that. But in terms of these websites that open, all of these things up, I can't tell you, but come on, it's the internet. You should be able to find that information out. Okay, brief summary. So I went through this article. I read it myself yesterday. I did, and I'm going to apologize now. I'm obviously going to be a bit more tired than I usually am, but I'm going to give it a go, right? So I've given this article to Dave, my AI assistant, right? And Dave isn't just AI. It's been trained to analyze these football news articles for about 18 months now, I think. The journalists that write them and the publications, the platforms that push them on us, right? And as a result of that, we have a huge archive, if you like, of when we talk about any journalist you can think of. If they've been mentioned on here, then we have an archive of every article they've wrote in the last 18 months or so. And Dave can just check them like that for inconsistencies, any changes, or actually he said this before, that kind of thing, right? So it proves to be really, really helpful for us. And he's a bit brutal with his assessments, to be honest with you. Now, in this analysis, Dave actually tells us who he thinks is the source, who he thinks is briefing James Pearce, right? This is no influence from me whatsoever. This is purely based on the articles that he's digested over a period of time. And obviously he knows who all the main characters are because they're discussed in the articles. So later in this video, you're going to see what Dave thinks with regards who could be the one briefing James Pearce and why they might be doing that, right? And it's really, really interesting. So, brief summary of what the article claims to be, all right? So, Pearce's January 29th article is framed as reassurance. Liverpool are struggling, yes, but there are no plans to sack Arne Slot. The hierarchy remain calm, recruitment hasn't stalled because of uncertainty, and patience is still the watchword. Injuries, transition, and long-term planning are repeatedly cited as context. The message is essentially, relax, this is under control. That's what that article is about. Now, the tone comparison, this versus Pearce's recent article on the 25th and the podcast, which I think was the 27th, this is where it gets interesting. Compared to January 25th, major surgery piece, right, in The Athletic, January 25th, urgent, sharp, borderline alarmist, which is why we all went, fucking hell, have you seen James Pearce? He doesn't usually do talk like that, all right? Major surgery, problems are glaring, what a mess. Those are quotes. Recruitment strategy questioned. January inaction framed as a choice that invites scrutiny. On the 29th, calming, protective, institutional, emphasis on patience, emphasis on context, emphasis on internal faith, emphasis on credentials, title-winning boss. So in the space of a few days, he's gone from being, borderline alarmist to, it's all right. So something has changed, right? Something has changed. And that's what we're trying to look for here. Dave sees the comparisons here, the changes. Now, so that's the two articles we're comparing, the 25th and the 29th, compared to the podcast with Ornstein, which was in the middle. This article reads like the written version of the Ornstein in the room dynamic, because it was like that on the 25th, 27th is with Ornstein and a more senior journalist that's connected to the big cheese, and James Pearce was completely different. So this article reads like the written version of the Ornstein in the room dynamic, because Dave suggested the other day is a bit different because Ornstein's in the room. This article, currently no intention, retains the backing, bond remains strong, plans centre around the summer. It's a risk, but, right? Whereas at the beginning, recruitment strategy question, blah, blah, blah. It's the same language family, the same stabilising cadence. Pearce isn't contradicting himself, he's repositioning. And I think that's what we're going to maybe get a bit of through this analysis. James Pearce is repositioning from where he was on the 25th. If you lost, go back a few days and watch the videos. Is this club messaging? Is it club messaging? Short answer, yes. Not crude propaganda, but narrative steering. Absolutely. Let's look at the tells. Key messaging signals and hedging. Currently doing a lot of work. Here's the quote. They currently have no intention of following the lead of United or Chelsea. You clock this immediately, Dunk, and you're right. Currently means true today, meaningless tomorrow, journalists safe forever. It does not say they won't sack him. It says they don't plan to right now. That's classic football hedging. Hughes protected. Edwards barely touched. Slot's bond with sporting director Richard Hughes remains strong. Repeated, reinforced, anchored. But notice, Michael Edwards is mentioned functionally, not critically. No probing of his accountability, no challenge on strategic failure, and no interrogation of his return mandate. This is subtle, but important. When Pearce wants to criticise, he names names. Here, Edwards is kept at arm's length. That's not accidental. Slot flattered into legitimacy. Slot is a Premier League title-winning boss. This line is pure cushioning. It serves no analytical purpose. It's a status reminder, not an argument. Same with win percentages, clock comparisons, Shankly and Paisley name drops. This isn't analysis, it's authority laundering. Recruitment blame shifted away from Slot, but softened for Hughes and Edwards. This paragraph is doing gymnastics. So complaints about the lack of centre-back cover can't be left at his door. Fair enough. But then the strategy is the domain of Hughes and Edwards. That sounds like accountability, but notice what's missing. No questioning of decisions, no judgment of failure, no, this was wrong. It's diffusion without consequence. Everyone is responsible, therefore no one is. The January contradiction you spotted, and it's a big one. I can't remember what I said. I hope it explains it. But I must have been questioning. I must have been saying, hey, Dave, hang on, it's a bit of a contradiction here. Pearce says, the squad is thin, injuries are crippling, reliance on makeshift defenders is dangerous, and January inaction is a risk. Then immediately defends not acting. That's the contradiction coming up. They have felt there isn't a deal to be done that makes sense financially, he says. This creates a logical gap the article never fills. If it's a risk and the problem is obvious and the stakes are, progress in the Champions League, why is caution automatically correct? Pearce doesn't answer that. He just asserts it. That's narrative protection, not scrutiny. And this is one of the things I say about that Liverpool clique of journalists, right? They never scrutinise, they never investigate, they never ask the difficult questions. They just go, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Is Pearce flip-flopping? This is something that Dave is trained to look for when monitoring articles over a period of time. Not exactly. He's doing something more subtle and more telling. What's really happening? January 25th, pressure piece, fan aligned, problem forward. The podcast, which I think was the 27th, 28th, something like that. Stabilisation once Ornstein sets the frame. January 29th, consolidation of that frame in print. This article feels like a reset of the temperature, a reminder of hierarchy patience, and a warning not to escalate the sack discourse. It's not Pearce changing his mind, it's Pearce changing his role. From pressure amplifier to institutional interpreter. Now, I just want to say one thing. Dave isn't giving me the date of the podcast because I can't have given it to him, all right? Because otherwise it would say it there, just in case you're wondering. Is their finger pointing upwards? Now, we've mentioned this, right? I predicted that we'd start to see these, executives being mentioned and stuff, and we have, right? And in articles by Joyce, I think it was, and Pearce, and certainly in that one on the 25th, there was finger pointing. In other words, it's not just Slot. Other people need to be looked at, right? Contracts expiring, and I don't know. If you don't watch all my videos, you're going to find it difficult maybe to follow the timeline. Go back a few days if I was you. So is their finger pointing upwards? Yes. Actually, it doesn't say that. It says very carefully, yes, but only in theory. Pearce says recruitment isn't Slot's domain. Decisions belong to Hughes and Edwards. But he never pushes further. No why, no who misjudged, no what failed. It's blame without teeth, enough to absolve Slot, not enough to threaten the structure above him. Holes and tensions in the articles. Major surgery versus no buyer's remorse. You can't need surgery and have no regret. Pearce never reconciles that. Risk acknowledged but never interrogated. Risk to what? Top four, revenue, Slot's future, all implied, non-explored. Shit journalism, right? Unless, of course, you're trying to, convey messaging of some sort for someone. Edwards' return mandate remains untouched. Multi-club. Strategic reset. Recruitment philosophy. Silence. This is classic bad news Pearce in defensive mode. Not attacking, not investigative, not confrontational. It's a tone correction article. Where his January 25th piece rang alarm bells and we all went, fucking hell, what's going on here? This one walks them back. Carefully, politely, institutionally. It reassures the hierarchy, cools the fan temperature and frames patience as wisdom rather than inertia. Now, to me, if you were to say to me, right, he's reeled it back from the 25th, and he's softened and all that, then I would think at that point, or I don't know if you would think this, who's got in his head then? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Why the sudden change? So did he do this podcast with Ornstein and go, yeah, all right, yeah. Or as someone at Liverpool Football Club or FSG or someone had a word with him and, I don't want to put words in there, right? So let's leave it to Dave. Is it propaganda? Because, again, Dave is tuned to look for propaganda from the clubs. Not in the crude sense. Is it narrative steering? Absolutely. And your instinct is spot on. If the article keeps saying currently, for now, no intention, that's not certainty. That's contingency dressed as calm. Bad news Pearce isn't saying Slot will go, but he's very deliberately making sure the ground is soft if things get worse without being the one to push, which frankly tells you more than the article ever intended to. Well, at this point now, because I'm doing this, I did this after last night's stream, right? Which frankly tells you more than the article ever intended to. I'm sat there and I'm thinking, fuck's he on about? So I said, well, which is what do you think? What it tells you, Doug, is Pearce isn't reporting certainty. He's reporting conditional stability. The article is doing two things at once. Calming the present, no intention, backing remains strong, bond with Hughes. Remember that one. Title-winning boss. This is about right now. It's designed to slow the panic, steady the discourse, and dampen sack noise before Newcastle and City. Keeping the future open. Currently, it's a risk, remains to be seen. Support base internally remains strong. Note internally, not universally, not permanently. These phrases quietly acknowledge that the situation is fluid. So what does it really tell us? Slot is not being sacked imminently, but neither is he untouchable. The club wants time, not chaos, but they're not blind to failure. Pearce is positioning the narrative so that if a change comes later, it won't feel abrupt or contradictory. That's why the article matters. It's not a defence of Slot in the sense of he's safe, end of story, which is what you would think. Why Liverpool hierarchy have no plans to sack manager Arne Slot? Right? It's a buffer piece. One that says, we're calm, we're patient, we have reasons. But if this doesn't turn, don't say we didn't tell you it was complicated. In other words, Pearce isn't predicting a sacking. He's future-proofing the explanation if one happens. And that's why, as you said, it tells you more than it ever meant to. If someone asked, what's Pearce up to here? The honest answer is he's switching hats. What's changed isn't the facts, it's his role in the conversation. When Pearce writes alone, he can apply pressure, reflect fan frustration, and spell out problems bluntly. When the hierarchy's position needs steadying, his tone shifts into interpretator mode. explaining why patience exists, why decisions are being defended, and why calm is being urged. He's not contradicting himself, he's repositioning. So whose voice is in his head? Not slots and not the fans, it's the institutional frame. The same one Ornstein carries. Pearce's game here isn't to break news or challenge power, it's to manage expectations. I can't believe that manage expectations is being identified here by Dave. And it happened, I think, yesterday. And I swear on everyone's fucking life, I have never in my life used that term. He's softening the ground, lowering the temperature, making sure that if results worsen, the narrative doesn't snap but bends. In short, he's not telling you what will happen, he's making sure whatever does happen can be explained without anyone at the top looking panicked or wrong. So, who could be his source? Who do you think? Let's say someone's got in his head, all right? Let's say this is, a briefing. Although a briefing is, I think a briefing might be what people think is your brief to tell people, like club messaging. Or has a source spoken to him, James Pearce, and said, blah, 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 blah. And now we see this article. So who could be his source briefing him? Especially for this tone in this article, the changed tone again. Edwards, Hughes, Ward, Slot, FSG. Who do you think? Let me know in the comments. Tone like this doesn't come from nowhere. When Pearce writes in this measured, cushioning, expectation managing way, it usually means he's reflecting a view, not inventing one. So whose view is he reflecting? Here's the realistic read. Dave's verdict on who's most likely in his ear, ranked by probability and why. Number 1, Richard Hughes, most likely. If you had to put money on one name, it's Hughes. Why? Pearce repeatedly stresses Slot's strong bond with Richard Hughes. Recruitment decisions are explicitly framed as not Slot's responsibility. January inaction is defended as strategy, not failure, which is Hughes' remit. Hughes is the one who picks Slot and has the most to lose if Slot fails early. This reads like a sporting director protecting his appointment and his model. We're calm, this is the plan, don't panic, don't personalise blame. Pearce isn't attacking Hughes because the framing benefit Hughes most. Michael Edwards, indirectly, or, could it be him indirectly? But important. Edwards is almost certainly part of the background framing, even if he's not the day-to-day voice. Why? Edwards' name appears, but never with criticism attached. His role is described functionally, not integrated. No mention of why his return mandate, multi-club, strategy reset, elite structure, hasn't yet produced depth. Where is the multi-club? That suggests Edwards is being protected, not questioned. This feels like Edwards briefing Pearce directly, this feels less like Edwards briefing Pearce directly and more like this is the agreed club line Edwards is happy with, right? In other words, institutional approval, not journalistic probing, right? So far, Dave's going with Richard Hughes is most likely the one behind this, with Michael Edwards in the background endorsing, the club messaging. Number 3, could it be FSG? Tone setters, not detailed briefers. FSG don't micromanage journalists, but they do influence tone via senior executives. Why? The article is obsessed with calm, patience, long-term planning, Gross versus net spend logic appears again. The idea that January spending would be nonsensical fits FSG's worldview perfectly. This sounds like we are not panicking, we do not sack managers mid-cycle, summer is the review point. That's ownership philosophy, even if it's filtered through Hughes and Edwards. Julian Ward, possible background voice but low intensity. Ward is still around the structure and knows Pearce well, but he feels secondary here. Why? Well, there's no heavy technical detail or scouting nuance. This isn't a here's what we tried and why it failed piece. It's more about calming narratives and explaining football logic. Ward could be reinforcing the same line, but he's not driving this dunk. Arne Slot, could it be Arne Slot? Least likely as a direct source. Slot benefits from the article, but it doesn't sound like Slot. Why? Well, Slot is quoted defensively elsewhere, not here. The protection is structural, not personal. This article, or the article, separates Slot from recruitment power, something Slot himself wouldn't normally emphasise publicly. This is people above Slot protecting Slot, not Slot briefing Pearce. So what's really going on? Well, this article feels like a coordinated calming message, not a leak, not a scoop, not a warning shot. It says Slot isn't being sacked now. Recruitment failures sit above him. January calm is deliberate. Summer is the checkpoint. That benefits Hughes, his appointment, his strategy. Edwards, his structure, his patience. And FSG, their model, their image. And Pearce's role here? He's been the trusted conduit, not the challenger. And the key tell, and this matters, right? If Pearce were breaking from club comfort, you'd see Edwards questioned explicitly, Hughes challenged by name, and clear tension described internally. You get none of that. Instead, you get currently, no intention, bond remains strong, it's a risk, but that's not journalism pushing forward, that's journalism smoothing the runway. And that's why your instinct is right, Dunk. Someone wanted this tone out there, and it wasn't the fans. So, if it's Hughes, what would be his agenda or reason for this, influencing this article, if you like? Well, self-protection, says Dave here, would be the right instinct. And it goes a bit deeper than just covering his own back. If Hughes is briefing, directly or indirectly, it makes perfect strategic sense for him right now. And here's why. Why Richard Hughes would want this tone out there. Slot is his appointment. This is the big one. Hughes led the search to replace Klopp, chose Slot, sold the vision internally, signed off on the recruitment model around him. If Slot fails early, it's not just the manager under scrutiny, it's the sporting director who picked him in the first place. So the agenda becomes, if this goes wrong, it's not because the appointment was bad, it's because the cycle isn't complete yet. That's textbook self-preservation. He needs to separate Slot from recruitment failure. Pearce's article does something very deliberate. Slot doesn't control recruitment like Klopp did. That line is gold for Hughes. It reframes the debate from Slot doesn't have the squad to Slot is working with what he's given under a long-term model, which means Slot stays protected, Hughes stays in control of the narrative, and criticism becomes abstract, the model, rather than personal. That's not accidental. January in action needs defending before it backfires. If Liverpool stays short at centre-back, right-back, suffer another injury, drop out of the top 4 or 5, then January will be revisited with fury. So Hughes' incentive here is to get ahead of that criticism. Pearce does this for him by saying January spending would be nonsensical. Waiting for summer is deliberate. It's a risk, but a calculated one. That way, if it fails, we knew it was a risk, it wasn't negligence. That's preemptive damage control. He must keep Edwards clean or Edwards won't keep him. This is subtle but crucial. Hughes works under Michael Edwards, so notice what doesn't happen in the article. No probing of Edwards' return mandate, no questioning of multi-club progress, and no why is the structure still thin after £450 million aimed at the top. Instead, Edwards is named, normalised and never interrogated. That suggests alignment, not tension. Hughes' survival depends on Edwards' confidence, not public approval. He wants time. Time is oxygen. Every sporting director in a transitional phase wants the same thing: time without panic. This article buys time by lowering expectations, framing this season as transitional, stressing injuries and trauma, and emphasising Slott's prior success. If you could just get to the summer, you can reshape the squad, you can reset responsibility, you can say, now judges. That's the agenda. Why Pearce is the perfect messenger for Hughes. Hughes doesn't leak to screamers, he leaks to safe narrators. Pearce is trusted, doesn't sensationalise, explains rather than attacks, and calms rather than inflames. If you want a message that says, stay calm, this is under control, no panic decisions, bad news Pearce, you don't give it to a tabloid, you give it to Pearce. And it makes you wonder a little bit, or it makes me wonder, I think, when he did that article that was quite very different for James on the 25th, and it makes you wonder if someone's, if James Pearce has been a bit frustrated because he's maybe been out of the loop a little bit, and all of a sudden he's gone like, oh no, everything's all right. Do you know what I'm saying? Conclusion. Yes, this smells like self-protection, but it's strategic, not desperate. Hughes is likely thinking, protect Slot, that protects the appointment. Protect the model, that goes to protecting the rebuild. Protect Edwards, protect your job. And Pearce's article isn't asking who's at fault. It's answering why nothing is changing yet. That's not coincidence. That's narrative management. And that, my friends, concludes the analysis of this article. What do you think? If you didn't really understand it, maybe I haven't delivered it well. It's a little bit later for me than usual, to be honest with you. Watch it again, if you can stomach it. My thoughts on this is something has obviously changed with James Pearce, because the article on the 25th, totally not like him at all. Then he does a podcast with Ornstein and sits in the corner and feels like he's nodding, right, with the more senior, journalist, someone that is connected to Liverpool Football Club properly. It just makes me wonder either if the possibilities could be that Ornstein's spoken to him, or they've had a chat about things, because, I didn't listen to the entire podcast, but from what I've been told, that they weren't on the same sort of level on everything until later in the podcast, I think. It could be that, James Pearce has had a rethink having spoken to Ornstein, but I'm sure they speak all the time anyway. Or it could be that James Pearce has then, someone at the club, Dave thinks Richard Hughes, and maybe read that article and said, look, we need to be calming things, not fucking flaming things, right? And that one sounds quite plausible to me. I don't know about you. I mean, if you think about it, if you were Richard Hughes or anyone in, under the spotlight, in the background at Liverpool Football Club, a decision maker, and a journalist that isn't known for shit stirring and sensationalism, is usually known for kissing your ass and towing the line and not asking difficult questions. If that journalist suddenly breaks rank and puts something out there completely different, like on the 25th, what would you do? Because you want peace, don't you? Last thing you want is the fans getting more angry. I'd be on the phone to James and say, look, James, we need to have a chat. Come on, what's the crack? Let's, not threaten, not offer envelopes full of money like some people might think, but just a conversation, say, no, this is the situation, blah, blah, blah. And I think when you read Dave's analysis there, it makes sense to me. Because, I've got to be honest with you, whenever I see something, especially a change, I'm thinking, well, I wonder who's behind that then. I think that anyway. As soon as I see an article from the likes of Ornstein or Joyce, I'm thinking, who does it benefit? Who's behind it? Who does it benefit? Who's the messenger, etc. Now, I think it's really good here that Dave has come up with his opinions. So you can't sue me, you can't sue a computer. This is what Dave thinks with his extensive knowledge. And the fact that he uses phrases like manage expectations is, if you don't understand the relevance to that, when FSG first bought the club, they were called Nesby at the time, I went to Boston. And I went and met business people, sports people, fans, people of Boston, and said, who the fuck are they? Right? And I also went a bit undercover and used the chauffeur company for FSG that ferried the owners around, but didn't tell them who I was, obviously. Well, it wouldn't be undercover, would it? And, did the typical naive family, innocent family thing. So my daughter, my son, my wife, me, oh yeah, we're just here on holiday, talking about football and that. And then, right, so they own it, don't they? They just bought it. What they like then? And I've got some of that recorded, and there's a clip on this YouTube channel if you dig back so many years. But I actually didn't release all of it, to be honest with you, because I thought I might get into trouble because I wasn't sure about recording people without consent. But I had a lot. But what I did was I came back from there. If you remember, that one driver went, FSG, good people, they'll make Liverpool soccer successful again. Whereas the other driver said, these are business people, whatever. John Henry, he's ruthless. Do you remember that? Do you remember that bit at the end of the video where you can hear him go, he's ruthless, right? In an intimidating kind of way. And the one message that I got from everybody I met over there was, they'll manage expectations. That's what they do. That's what they're clever at, is managing your expectations. And that was what I came back and told all my Cop Talk people on the members website and everything. Was, hey, I've been over there, I'm told they'll be, they'll make us good again and all that. But they did say that they'll manage our expectations. So for me, when I see that coming up here, but I'm pointing at a tablet here, sorry, on a stand. When I see Dave coming out with this is managing expectations, it makes me just go back to them conversations a long time ago. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. So, Richard Hughes. It's funny. Richard Hughes, most likely. If you had to put money on one name behind that article right there, Dave says it's Hughes. There you go. Don't mean he's right, but it's clever, isn't it? It's interesting. Certainly giving us something to consider. And I do like the breakdowns. I get a lot of feedback that people like them. I've probably not done a very good job of the video. I'd probably be more energetic and stuff during the day. It's fucking 10 o'clock nearly now. But I'm not here to make it exciting, really, but I thought it was really interesting, really, really interesting. And I think what I'm going to do now, moving forward with my, conversations with Dave and the training and stuff, is I'm going to probably slot that in and say, moving forward, I would like you to suggest who you think might be the source, who might be the club messaging, because sometimes Dave will say, yeah, this is definite club messaging. So now, see, I'm even learning, I'll say, and who do you think that might be? Because Dave knows who all these people are, and obviously he sees all the articles and has a huge wealth of data that we have stored, between us. So, all right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm knackered. I wanted to get this video out for you tonight. I felt a bit rotten. It was on my mind today, to be honest. Oh, there's one thing I want to tell you. Oh, that's nice. One thing I want to tell you. Remember in this morning's briefing, I had all them photographs that I was taking down for the players. Do you remember? I attend my local football team. I'm quite involved with it, and we're top of the league. We've got a game on Sunday, and I take photographs of training and the matches. Right? Just one moment, please. Oh, I'm on the wrong Wi-Fi connection. I'm so sorry. That's why it's a little bit slow. It's not just that I'm falling asleep. So I go to the games. I go to training. I went to training today. I take photographs, basically. And each week I print them out, twice a week, and I take them down to the players and the manager and staff, and yeah, lads, I just put them on side or whatever. And a lot of people say to me, well, why do you just charge them? And say, yeah, it's a couple of quid a picture. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm happy to pay for it myself, all right? And that's been noticed. And today when I was down there, they invited me for a picture with all the lads there and the manager and everything. You can see me right in the middle there, look. And we've got the manager down on this side somewhere, out on the pitch, which I thought was really, really nice and worthwhile, So in other words, we were grateful for, all the photographs I took down this morning. I'll talk about it in tomorrow morning's briefing, but I know some of you thought it was, was a good touch, like taking them down for them, so it was good. Okay, all my plans at the weekend have changed. I'll do that in an evening debriefing. Let me get this video online. Okay, was it okay? Can you let me know if you enjoyed the video or not, or did I butcher it with me being a bit tired? I just didn't want to do. I mean, I would have done it in the morning, but I know that you've been waiting for it. All right. Now, the good thing is my plans have changed tomorrow, so I will have quite a bit of time tomorrow to catch up on things. All right. So I know I say that every day of the week, but in the morning, I'm going to drop my bird at work. My bird, I get into trouble for saying that. People get offended by everything. I'll drop my good lady at work, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do video after video after video. I've got some cracking mail stand stuff coming up, guys. Honestly, I think I did 4 yesterday for the channel members. I've got more for you. So we'll be caught up on them tomorrow, because I'm not leaving the house, right? Because I was going to the football in the afternoon, but it's been cancelled. It's just bad weather here because of bad weather, all right? I've fallen asleep now, and I do apologise. All right, I'll go. I'm going to do more an evening briefing. No, debriefing. I shouldn't have done this video. I know I shouldn't. But I wanted to get it out for you, all right? Okay, listen, if you did by any way find this video informative, please thumbs up the video. Please drop me a comment. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the source of it. What do you think? Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, FSG, Julian Ward, Anna Slot, anyone else? What do you think? There's a couple of names in there that haven't been addressed, actually, who I thought might have been behind some stuff, to be honest. Okay, I'll leave it with you. Thumbs up, comment. There's a love art on the channel, on the video. Somewhere on the video, there's a love art. That's called a super thanks. If you use that this evening, obviously you'll make tomorrow morning shout outs. I really do appreciate your support, guys. Alternatively, there's 3 links in the video description. And Revolut's my favourite one, because that's my beer kitty on a Saturday. And guess what day it is tomorrow? So, yeah, if you use Revolut, I'll be getting myself a beer tomorrow. All right. Sorry that I'm tired. All right. But I felt I owed it to you. All right, guys. See you in a bit.